Hello everyone, I hope you're all well. Welcome to this webinar on playing out of pressure in futsal. Just before we start, I'd like to set the scene in terms of where this webinar might fit with some of the other content we're putting on YouTube at the moment. We're really encouraging coaches at the moment to consider how much value and how much emphasis they put on the importance of individual and small group work. You know, particularly the specific techniques, the detail, and the tactics we might want to help the players with. So it'd be really interesting to see with this topic here, how much is related to that and how much is based on team strategy. Just linked to that, we have actually already filmed some webinars around this idea. So do look out for these. The one we did on the importance of individuals came out last week. So if you haven't seen that, please feel free to have a look. We'll continue to try and put some out after this one goes live on playing as pairs, playing as threes, and playing as a four. So there's lots going on which you can look out for. And this is in addition to some previous conference footage, an interview with Max Kilman, and some other bits. But on to this webinar. Just quickly, my name's Ian Parks. I'm an FA youth coach developer, supporting coaches in the academies down in the Southwest. But I do have an additional responsibility to support clubs and coaches nationally who want to integrate futsal in their academies. I'm also responsible for coordinating futsal coach ed across the country as well. I'll be hosting this, and what a pleasure it is to host a discussion with two excellent guests. Now, do excuse me, but I am going to read these introductions because I don't want to miss anything. Firstly, England futsal head coach Mike Skubala. For those who don't know Scoobs, he was first a player with Great Britain Universities and England, making over 60 appearances and captaining both. He later went on to become Great Britain University's assistant coach for football and was the director of football at Loughborough University. In terms of futsal, he was the head coach of Great Britain Universities and the England under-21s, as well as the England seniors assistant. He later became the England senior head coach in 2015. He's therefore had over 200 international games as a player and a coach, so he's got lots of experience to share with us here, particularly about how we can apply the ideas to the game here in England. So welcome, Scoobs, and thanks for joining us.
Hi, how are you doing? Good evening.
Good. And secondly, we're also really lucky to have Jorge Braz with us. George did come over to the Futsal Conference in 2018, so some of you might remember him from there. His work was very well received that day, hence our desire to ask you back, George. But again, I'm going to read this. Born in Canada, George first came into contact with futsal in the early 90s after working in football. As a player, he played football for Chaves in Portugal and then futsal for Portugal universities. After playing, he moved into coaching, and after studying and coaching at a couple of universities, went on to coach the Portugal universities team. In this role, he won the Men's World University Championships, and he was runner-up in the Women's World University Championships. He later became a fixture in the Portugal national team coaching setup in 2006, before being named head coach of the Portugal senior men's team in 2010. He has since taken Portugal to 3 European finals tournaments and a World Cup, with his most recent and notable achievement being that he guided them to becoming European champions in 2018. So a really warm virtual welcome to this event, George, and a huge thank you to you for giving up your time to share with us your thoughts on this topic.
Thank you. It's a big pleasure to be with you and to cooperate with FA. It's a huge honor to be here, trying to speak English again. I was born in Canada. My English isn't that good anymore, but good to get out, to catch on and to try to improve a little bit. Let's see if I can improve something or some ideas of futsal too. That's the main goal. A huge pleasure to be here with all of you.
Brilliant. The plan for this is to be slightly more presentation driven rather than discussion based. We've got some amazing expertise here with George, as we've just heard. So we do really want to try and glean as much as we can from him in the time available. That being said, Scoobs and I may well intervene with questions throughout to try and help us make sense of it and delve into some of the content a little bit further. But I think that's all the logistics. So George, thanks again for joining us, and over to you.
Okay, thank you. So I will try to, first of all, it's also a great pleasure to be side by side with Michael. A long time ago as a player, at University World Championships, and it was always very clear that he could have all this success, have all this vision, and it's also been very good for me too to have the opportunity to discuss so many futsal with English FA, with especially with Michael, so with all the details he likes to know and likes to discuss. It's very important. So it's a huge pleasure to be with you here too, Michael. Let's see if we can explain some simple stuff of futsal, and if it can enjoy and improve a little some ideas of all the coaches. I think that's the main issue.
Yeah,
so
thank you.
To move on, so playing out of pressure, futsal always, most of the times you play with pressure. So we'll try to see how do you go out of pressure depending on what is the defense of your opponent doing on the other side. Will it be huge tragedies or great tactics, fantastic ideas of the coach, or will it be simple aspects, individual, by pairs, small groups? What is more important, and how do we relate this with team strategy, with the big ideas we have of the match? We'll try to go through these three ideas. And three other ideas to begin. How do you want to play futsal? There are a lot of ways. There's no recipe. You can play in many ways. I always say I've seen national champions in Portugal defending man on man almost until the bathroom, like we say. I already seen champions defending zone in a perfect way. So what is better? You have many ways. How do you intend? What is your idea? According to that idea, how are you going to train? Are you worried with a lot of stuff of physically and technically? Yeah, but maybe everything has to go through your idea of playing. I think that's really important. What is our priority in our training context? How do we organize our training for the team to play as we want? That's the main issue, and we'll try to see here some relations between what do we want about how to play, and then how do we do it by training. And of course, then the last aspect, does the message get there? Do we have our own ideas of training and organizing our strategy, organizing our team? This is really important. And of course, we're always looking, what is the evolution? Where are we going? How do we organize our teams? Everybody always says, no, George, you have to adapt yourself to where the game is going. Where's the evolution of the game? And I always say, no. I have to try to be a step ahead. I have to have my ideas. I have to have a lot of knowledge of the game. But then if they're defending a lot man on man, I have to find strategies with my players, with Portuguese culture, with our way of playing to be ahead of that. The same if I want to pressure, exactly the same way like everybody does. For sure that English players are different from Portuguese in some aspects, in some culture aspects, and understanding the game. How do we mix all of this? And that's our main role. I always have doubt, what is more important? At the beginning of my career, training, organizing, no. Then I realized I need more knowledge of the game. I have to study more the game. I have to see the main teams, what do they do? And we get to some point that, but now the message has to pass. So these three aspects are very important for us. And what is the logic of the game? So if we want to discuss the game, for us, it's like for everybody. I think this isn't new for nobody. Of course, we have defense. How do we organize it? If we win the ball, we have offensive transition. But then what are the phases of that? No? Opening the pitch when you win the ball, when you're at the beginning, then you have opportunity for a counterattack, you have a higher number of players, a big advantage, or it's in the middle between positional and counterattack, so you can do a fast attack, or no, you have to organize your attack. Okay, when you lose the ball, the same. What is first? We try to recovery right away, or we have to balance in timing, or to try to get to organize my defense and try to have a positional defense. So this is the cycle, of course. So what are the main principles? What is fundamental for those principles for all the actions that I do, individual, small groups, for this to work? This is the cycle. How do we understand the game, and how do we put all this in the training session? So,
George, can I just interrupt there a little bit?
Yes, of course.
Can you just give me sort of, for the listeners, the differences between counter attack and fast attack, and maybe positional attack again? Because we have counter attack in England, and we have different names for the different phases, but ultimately mean the same things. But it's just for the English listeners what you actually mean by those three things.
Yeah, we tried to simplify. Before we had, okay, you win the ball, you open, then you try to progress until the other, then you try to find. We tried to simplify. When you win the ball and you're defending an offensive transition, if you have a higher number of players forward to go to your opponent goalie, you have a clear situation of counterattack.
Yeah.
If you don't have that advantage in number, but they are still not organized, they are still balancing and timing, but we don't have a number advantage, do we take the risk? Do we consider that an advantage to try to get a score chance? That's more a fast attack. Okay, it's not so direct. It's between the middle in positional attack and counterattack, because you don't have a clear advantage. So we try to understand this. Even today, I was watching a lot of videos to organize a coaching course here in Portugal, considering transition, and it's very obvious the situations where you have a clear number advantage. So 3 against 2, 2 against 1, 3 against 1, it's a clear advantage. You have to go directly. You have to counterattack. You have to take that chance. A lot of times you win the ball and it's 2 against 2, or it's 3 against 2, but you don't have a big positional advantage. Okay, they're still not organized, or 3 against 3, or even 1 against 1. But so do you take the risk? You will need 2 or 3 more passes, maybe. You will have to temporize a little bit more, but that's what we say fast attack. So
brilliant.
We try to put these two difference.
So a numerical advantage is a counter attack for you guys, and a fast attack could be 3 versus 3 or 4 versus 4 with disorganized. And then positional attack is your systems, when you have to break down builders and event. Perfect.
Exactly. Theoretically, we say it's a question of numbers. If you have the same number, offensive guys and defensive guys, so you can at least have a fast attack. And if you get to your system, you have to organize. Okay, you're already in position. That's how we try to understand the cycle of the game.
Thank you.
So then, of course, what is the relation between attack and defense? What understanding do we have in the futsal game? And this is decisive. And we understand it better if we know what principles we have. Of course, we have to try to go forward every time we have the ball. Every time I receive the ball, me as one single player of the team, I have to try to go forward. I have to orientate my body. I have to orientate my reception. I have to look forward. I have to domain the field. So what are the fundamentals to accomplish the main principles of the game? That's very obvious for us. And then, of course, to do all the actions of the game properly. So these are the three aspects that we are very concerned in coach education here in Portugal. Principles are very easy. The universal principles, not principles of how I then want to play pressing, that's already more complex to teach the game. What are the fundamentals to accomplish those principles? And if I want to do a screen well, a diagonal, if I want to do pass and reception well, for sure, I have to understand the main principles of the game, and I have to respect most of the fundamentals, of course, because or else the things won't happen properly as we most of the times want. So
George, when you talk about orientation,
yes.
So if you to go back, when you talk about orientating with the ball, without the ball, with the body, that's for me, we say, whether you think it's the same, we're talking about receiving to play forward, facing forward, hips forward. The detail in that is really important. Is that what you mean by orientation? Is that?
Yes, exactly. That is decisive. When little kids, under 17, under 19, and they don't have these kind of concerns, they don't have these kind of preoccupation during their actions, then we always say, oh, the pass didn't went well. The pass didn't went well because he's not trying to progress, and he's not orientating his body, period.
Yeah.
We're always complaining in Portugal, we don't score that much goals, no? We need Cardinal and we need Ricardinho. But most of the time, when you look at these kind of players, they always so well orientated. They're always, like you say, they're always a step ahead. The simple things, they do it very well. And that's what I think our attention should be more, especially when we teach the game in very low ages. But of course, even in seniors, most of the time, we have to dedicate some time of training to improve simple aspects, or at least not to improve, because they're already most of the best players they are, but to keep on doing it so good like they do it. And if you ask, maintaining, that's the word. If you ask top players, if you ask most of the Portuguese top players, they feel they have the need to doing a lot of this kind of work. So should we look only at the big picture, like what I was saying? Do we look at some individual behaviors? The detail you were saying, Michael, do I orientate my body? Do I receive the ball already looking forward? And some of these kind of indicators are very important to establish relations 2 against 2, 3 against 3 in small groups. It's fundamental. What do we pay more attention at? Of course, then we look at the team behavior, our big strategy, but how do the things work inside there? Everything's connected, of course, but what do we pay more attention? Or maybe we have to pay attention to everything, even for little details. One assistant coach of mine is always saying, to cross the street, it's easy. That's the action. I know I have to cross the street faster or slower, but I have to look to the right and to the left. That's the fundamental. And most of the times, if we don't pay attention to some fundamentals of the game, I won't progress. I won't give coverage the way I should, and I won't move to the places I have to move. Only speaking about attack, and the same for defense. So what do we look at? And of course, we have some indicators when we try to analyze how do the most of the goals happen in national teams. In this case, main national team under 21 and under 19. And most of the goals happen only with combinations between 2 players. So is this important for us to have this kind of data? And when we started to try to analyze, my team did it, I said, see, maybe those 30 or 40 passes and having possession so many times, what everybody loves so much, yeah, that's important. But maybe only the 2 last passes or the last move, the change of rhythm or velocity, or maybe that would give the advantage. And so how do we look for that? And even in just the main team, right? Half of the goals in this season happened with combinations only with 2 players.
Wow.
So how do we look at the match? What is important? Do we look at small details? Because futsal, everything is, we have pressure everywhere, even in the space isn't that big. So I'm always saying just 50 centimeters is a huge advantage. If I'm 50 centimeters more to left or to right, if I have that space, I'm already having an advantage. So how am I going to take advantage of that advantage that I have according to my direct opponent or not, or if it's zone? So that's what we will try to see next. How do we look at these kind of things?
George, it's really interesting because we're talking about how everything links. So if we're talking about players becoming good under pressure, I say like going 1 meter in futsal is like going 5 meters in football. So you have to be comfortable in the 1 meter. So if we're talking about the details about how players receive, players in futsal, need to be good to receive, orientate under pressure. They need to be able to receive, to perceive the pressure if they're playing as a duality or a pair, as we call it. So that all links, doesn't it, to the goals that can be scored and the individual. We call it individual tactics. We call it paired tactics. But actually, the fundamentals, the technical detail, is so important for them becoming successful as players and then ultimately a team.
Exactly. That's why you understand so well you played so many years. You understand it. You felt it inside.
It was hard. It was hard.
I was goalkeeper. Was easy. Was just give them the ball to play and let's try not to. So, but it's exactly what that idea, because if I only play with my right foot or my left foot, the space that I use with the ball, the zones where I can receive the ball with pressure are very small. I have to use all my, all my motor space. No? I have to have a huge, occupy a huge space with my both legs. Now, that's why I have to play with right foot and left foot. That's why, I don't know how to say it in English, laterality, to use both sides of
bilateral
of your body.
Bilateral.
That's fun. That's one of the fundamentals to change orientation of the game.
What do you mean by change orientation? Just to intercept, just
like
to give.
If I'm dribbling, if I'm conducting the ball, with my right foot to the right side, and I want to stop and start conducting to the left side. If I'm under pressure, if I can't use both legs, I will have to. I won't be looking forward no more when I change direction, because I will cross my feet. And if I cross my feet, this is why the relation between attack and defense. If I cross the right foot with the left foot, that's an indicator. That's very easy for a high-level player. If I see somebody crossing their feet, that's an indicator for me to pressure him, because he's not looking forward no more. He's already orientated to the side, or even worse, to his goalie. So these kind of details of how we use the ball, if how I try to create space and occupy space, that's a fundamental. The feints create and occupy space, to win space with my direct opponent, with the ball, without the ball. I have to understand these little details, because the theme of the presentation, we always have a lot of pressure in most part of the pitch.
Perfect.
Brilliant. Cheers, George. That's great. Yeah, move on. That's brilliant.
We can move on. So just to give you some examples of offensive, okay, but it's, for me, it's always difficult to speak about attack and defense because it's related. And if they say, oh, you should attack this way, yeah, that depends on what they are doing. So how do I read and how do I put this? In this case, it's a duality between attack and defense. So if to see the video or to see this animation, they're defending zone, aren't they? They are changing. So maybe I could have advantage already with the guy in the middle, but what's happening on the ball? Is it highly pressured or not? So he's not going forward for sure because he's being highly pressured. Or maybe if he has a lot of resources, maybe he could get out of there easily. Okay, problem solved. But who gives him offensive coverage? Who helps him to continue playing? That's one important aspect. So how do we relate these two closer players, or the player who is inside the lines because it's zone? How do I give him support? Not only this one, all of them, but how do I give this support to continue playing? If we pass to the next video, to the next animation, the same. Okay, we're changing. I have some advantage between lines because it's zone. I can play with the guy between lines because I'm not pressure and I have space. So maybe now I can move. I don't have to go backwards or support. I can move to try to have advantage. This simple relation between who has the ball and who doesn't, who's closer, who's far away, this is the most important. He has space. So if he has space, maybe I can move and try to create an advantage. And they're defending zone. How do I open lines? So to play against a zone defense, you should move this way or that way. No, you have to see what's happening on the ball, what's happening with the, according to that, what should I do? I'm close. That's the main aspect. So let's try to see a real video of the game and you guys try to decide what would be your decision. It's going to be change, is going to be middle lines. The guy with the ball, he's orientated already to the other side. He's not going to play this side. But maybe this side, he would have more advantage. He would won the first defensive line of, in this case, of France. Because since he's changing, maybe it's better to change the orientation and to play this way. But he's already orientated that way. What would be your decision? You as a coach, what would you say? So let's try to see another option, the next video. If we see the next one, okay, he's playing the change, it's exactly the same situation. He's going to play that way. He's only looking at that way, the guy with the ball. So how can I create advantage even if you play that to the other side? Where will I have 2 against 1, a little advantage? What will be your option to change the orientation of the game? Because it's a defense zone. He's changing. He will be alone between lines. How do we get more advantage? And this is just the relation between these 2 or 3 guys. It's like I always say, it's the beginning. What happens after, let them decide. If we see the full video, we can put the full video now. Let's see what happened. Of course, you guys can imagine. He was already orientated to that side, 2 against 2 already. So if it's 2 against 2, what happens? How do I try to change rhythm? How do I try to line up only 2 defenders? So was this? Let's try to see it again.
George, you can't just pause you there. So I just want to make the point here that we're talking about individual actions. The player that moves through there, cutting without the ball or moving off the ball, is so key, isn't it, to getting in between the lines? Yes. And we're talking about moving and feinting, but we're also talking about having perception skills of when the defender maybe looks at the ball, is not looking at the game. So when we're playing against the zone here, because I think coaches get drawn to the ball so much, and actually the most important players probably in this situation is the player moving through, or the two players combining to move through.
Because this first move, he's already seeing that he's bringing his defender. And now we have 2 against 2 on the other side. Where do we have space at this time? Where is the space to try to attack? Simple aspects. Where is the space? Where do I create space? If it's zone, and there's a lot of exchanges, we have to move cleverly. We have to know where to stop and where to move. We don't have to run that much.
Yeah, and Portugal... Sorry, George. Portugal are in control of this situation totally. Collectively as a team. It's not a reaction to the defenders. This is, you guys controlling this situation, going where you want to go, moving the French team in the block where you want them to be, and then trying to take advantage.
Because we know they understand they were changing at the first movement, then they were trying. So it was being easy to put 2 against 2 on one side, 2 against 2 on the other side in a more not large but more vertical play. So how do the players they need to have this knowledge, but then the pass in this case is a perfect pass. The move, he's orientated to the goal to shoot right away. These little details, the change of rhythm is at the exact timing. So that is the most important aspects. Sometimes high-level players do things not according to the rules, of course, because they can pass looking the other way. They're not well orientated, but that's because their level is so high. But when we teach the game and when we look at simple aspects, it's important to understand. If we go to the next, so then the exercise, okay, in this video, we'll see again, exchange, trying to defend zone, one change, another change where you have support, and now how you break the zone. Not only between lines, but on the other side. But how do you call them? How do you try to organize? One first change and he's staying. 1 second change, should he continue running or should he stop? It's 3 against 2 in the construction zone. Maybe we have some advantage. So call them a little bit more. Oh, how do we open everything? And of course, if a pass goes in the middle of the zone, between lines, of course, maybe you will have a lot of advantage. So do you understand the match? What's happening? Where do you have to stop? Where do you have to move? But then how do you orientate yourself? How do you establish connection with who's close to you, with who's far away from you? That's the main issue.
And George, in that clip there, your players are really experienced. They want France to be pressing a little bit more, to give more space between the lines. They're orientated here, look to show, but you're trying to draw France out a little bit more. We're talking meters in order to get that opening. So I think you called it conducting or temporizing the pass, maybe to get players out. The individual detail and temporizing is so key.
Because who are we calling between lines at this moment? And how is the first line? They're getting closer and closer. So on the other side of the pitch, he will be alone. The problem is, how will the ball get there? With a high pass, takes more time. How do you get there? It's easy to create the advantage. And our coaches, most of the times we look at this big picture. Where's the advantage? Where's the space? Okay, but now let's look at the details for the ball to get there. Of course, it's a left foot. who does the last pass. It's Ricardinho, of course. He doesn't have to be totally orientated because his level is so high. But if this would be a little kid, if he doesn't receive orientate and look, he will never do this kind of pass and never have this possibility. So depending on the level, how do we organize it? But even with high-level players, it's really important to organize and to see, to look at some special details to win that 50 centimeters, like I was saying. In this case,
just to clarify, when you say temporize, do you mean timing of the pass? Is that what you're talking about?
Timing, yeah, it's exactly that, timing of the pass. We can go to the next one, and in this video, we'll see it again. Let's see what is the little advantage, and if they are changing or not. Where do we have space? Where do you have less players? Are there changing?
George, are these set moves then? I think people will be watching saying, is this a set move where they know where they're all going? Or is it just a case of a player seeing, like you said, there's a bit of space there, so I'm going to move there. And then when they leave some space, somebody else goes, they've left the space. So how orchestrated is it by you, and how orchestrated is by
excellent question. Fantastic question. That's what I say. Of course, we have principles to move. And like in the dictionary some years ago, I was so concerned with our defensive principles, with our pressure principles, with our offensive principles, where to move, where to set the plays, that I went to the dictionary to know the meaning of principles. And principles in Portuguese, it's really only the beginning. And like I say, okay, we can move and stop because he's going to change, but then you have to open your eyes and see where the space is. Are you extremely pressured or not? Like the first two slides we saw, is the ball pressure and I have to support him and go backwards, or he's not pressure and he's orientated and he's with a lot of space, so I can move and try to. That's the main concern for us, because if I can, it's easily, they're moving and they know where to move most of the times. But we have 6 players on the right side. We have only 2 players on the left. Let's try to get the ball there as quick as possible, because there's where we have some space. So many time to get there. And now there's already 2 against 1 on the left side. Why is the ball coming here again? We already have the advantage. There's the 2 against 1. This is what they have to read. A simple aspect, 2 against 2. This guy passed the ball, and it's 2 against 2 on the left side. He's changing. His opponent is not going after him, who's moving. So it's already, he just had to stop the ball and pass it. Look the advantage. And of course, the other guys already notice he's alone. So this guy is left, he's not going to put it there. But this guy is left too, he already had the advantage, 2 passes after. How do we look? The big picture, move, involve, and play to the other side, of course, like it happened on the video before. If I look at the little picture here, that simple aspect here, 2 against 2, things would be already easier. So this is, we can try to move this or take this to the training drills. This was the first slide we saw. Let's play 2 against 2 with 2 guys supporting on the outside. If he's playing on the outside of pitch, he always has space. If he always has space, every time I play with him, I have to move. And you guys are saying now, no, but that will be 2 against 2 inside the pitch. So they will always mark man on man. Maybe that will happen on this drill. But what I can say is, okay, the guy from outside that receives the ball, can he do orientated reception inside the pitch? And a green guy can go there? Can he have 2 touches to even shoot at the... How I build the rules now for this kind of stuff to happen. But if I play with 2 guys supporting me, they always have space. So if I play with them, I have to move. Now are they changing? Or they're defending man on man, 2 against 2 inside? What kind of rules? I'm not saying this is a good drill or it should be done. This is what goes on my mind to say, now let's think, let's try to improve this kind of movement and this kind of behavior that happens. Let's try to work. If I cross the two red guys, will the two green guys exchange? Maybe I should stop. Maybe I should stop between lines. Will I allow the support to come in with the reception, one to do reception, and then he can do the pass? What kind of space will happen? That's the thinking about what we see in the game. How do we want to play? And then what happens in the training session. And one other example, 3 against 3. We can see the animation. 3 against 3. If I call my colleague who's outside, let him come in. They will have to readapt, readjust. We'll have 2 guys on the defensive line, the first defensive line. I will have to try to play between lines, between these 2 guys, play by the outside. Will the outside guy be pressured or not? How do I create now some environment that where all the behaviors that I want will happen in the match? In this case, trying to win against a defense zone, and not a defense zone. I know that they will exchange a lot in the first defensive line. So where do I have to stop? More inside, not so inside? What can I do? And the same thing, just one more example. 4 against 4. If we put the animation, okay, what happens? Is this the match? How do I try to pressure? They're trying to play to that side. How do I pressure? But how do I get out of here? Oh, let's put a joker playing, not only a smaller space, and most of the time it's okay, 3 against 3 with support between lines. But does he only play between lines? Can he go wherever he wants? So most of the time it's 4 against 3, but playing. Will happen the kind of behaviors I want or not? That's the main issue. So 3 or 4 examples. How do we try to bring now to the training sessions what we were thinking and reading and think that what's happening in the match? But of course, now little details. Am I already orientated to shoot this guy that goes? The guy that receives the ball by the line, is he with space with his direct opponent? So 3 or 4 examples. How do we move between the game and the training sessions? And if we go, I think maybe to give the relation, if we go now, but the behavior isn't the same, now it's men on men. If we see the animation, we'll see it's different. Maybe I don't stop at the same place. Who moves can see the behavior of his direct opponent. So maybe I won't stop at the same place. It's 2 against 2 on each side. Maybe it's easy. They go where I want them to go. So what other fundamentals? How do I combine 2 with 2 or 3 with 3? Because now they're defending me on the other way. Where do I create space or no? So what happens?
George,
do I stop between lines now? Yeah. Maybe I won't stop between lines. Maybe I will create space in other zones in another way. That demands that I have to read always the game. Yes, Michael.
George. No, it's just I'm just trying to, for the coaches there, we're talking about, aren't we? How when we say we've got man for man, we've got zonal. We're talking now about how the actions of the individuals, the Reds, Portugal here against the Greens, have changed individually, maybe in pairs, because the defensive structure has changed. So it then is we have to take advantage in a different way. So now that we've gone to man for man, it's a slightly different game, and it's really important that we know our opposite team's responsibility in how they defend, how they, as individuals, want to, look after us individually. And I think this little change that you've gone on to now is really good. But the key here is there's still the principles that apply, the orientation, the movement, the dualities, but it might be slightly different in terms of the framework.
Little aspects, because if he's going to exchange, maybe the way I move and the way I stop, it's different. If he's going after me, maybe I will have to work with the guy on my side on this case. So the important is not the 4-0 and how is my structure and my big picture, my strategy, not my system. How do I work inside the system? Right? How do I relate 2 with 2, the 2 guys on each side, the 2 guys in the middle? How do I build it? But for me, it's decisive, and I think it's the most important, is each player, how does he try to have advantage with his opponent? If he changes, what do you do? If he goes after you, what do you do? But you have to try to have advantage. If you don't have, the guy beside you. If the guy beside you doesn't have, how do you work? The 2 of you guys aren't enough. How you work with the 3rd guy? You want to put blocks and screens, and what kind of specific movements now you have in futsal to try to win that kind of advantage. So this is very important, the relation between what's happening. It's always this relation between attack and defense. So,
and we're talking, George, aren't we? We're talking here about space and time a lot. How you control your space, how you control timing, how you own your space, mold your space, orientate your space, depending on what your opposite. Not being scared of it if the pressures come in, because you've got control of that space.
Exactly. That's the most important variables of the game, space and time. Because most of when I try to think the game, I have a lot of coaches, or most of the time even the players, they say, no, we can't do this because they will be an advantage. Okay, they will have the space, but they won't have the time to put the ball there. So how much time do you need? If it's Ricardinho, he has other kind of possibilities. He solves some problems with less time. So he doesn't need so much space. Other players need, but what is the same for everybody, what is the general principle is you have to win space, see where it is, and what time do you need to operate in this according to the space you have. If you go to defense, we're only talking about attack, but if you go to defense, that is the main aspect. How can I restrain the space they have for them not to have time to put the ball sometimes in advantages that I give them their advantages. But maybe they won't have the time or the quality to do that kind of pass to solve the problems of so less space that we've created. So this is the game of, how do you say it? The cat and the mouse, no? Always one trying to run away, one trying to eat each other. So, but that is one of the most important aspect is how do you manage to create space and how much time do you need? Because in high level, if you have just one little opportunity of the 50 centimeters, you will have a chance to score. If the level isn't that high, of course, that many times you have advantages, but you need more space and more time to have an opportunity. So that's why it's attack, counterattack, and the game isn't that organized because they don't solve the problem according to the space they have with the time they need. I think this is one of the ideas. So if we see the next animations.
George, sorry to interrupt just before you go on. You've talked about you've talked about blocking and screening. We've seen a parallel pass where the ball is lifted down the line for somebody to run onto. There's different ways that you can work in twos or pairs.
Yes.
Is there one that you would particularly see will happen more often against a man-to-man defence and one that would happen more often against the zone? Or is it just for the players to see what, where the space is, as you've talked about?
Yeah, like we're seeing on this animation, it's easy. And it's easy to if you move, and those two guys moving, what do you want to put there? A block? Or do you want to just move a screen to have him more space? But he's extremely pressured, so he won't be option. If he's extremely pressured, in this case, of course, we call it a parallel in the middle of the pitch. But how do you change rhythm and try to win advantage to your direct opponent, like the goal we saw, a parallel? Because how do you win to your direct opponent? So maybe you will play on this side. In this case, 2 against 2 and man on man, what is easier? Screens, blockage, parallel, continuously. The only thing, some details like Michael was saying, and if I go back, if it's man on man, what is the main fundamental for you to defend well? You have to always be seeing your opponent and seeing the ball. You have to try to control both things. My direct opponent who's moving, but I have to look at the ball, see where the ball is. If I move to the other side where I pass the ball, is it easier or difficult for me to control the ball? Maybe it's difficult, more difficult. If I pass the ball and I move to the same side where I pass the ball, maybe my direct opponent is seeing me, he's going after me, and he's seeing the ball. If I change these kind of direction, in which side is the ball and to which side I move, do I create more difficulty in who's defending? These are details that are much more important than the 4-0.
Yeah.
These are details that are, and now, do I want to put a blockage or do I want to put a screen over here to help him even have more advantage? Because we will see that in the videos very clearly. So with which side do I play? Parallel, blockage, screens, trying to make the defenders waste time going after their direct opponent because it's individual. Maybe that's one of the main aspects. So let's try to see here on the video, and maybe it will be easy to see the guys who move, even if they are moving to the side of the ball or going to the other side. Let's see. Sometimes it was in this case, the first guy that's moving to the side of the ball, his defender is watching him and the ball. But now, on the other side, he's already moving to the other side of the ball. He's calling his defender. He's calling his defender. So how can we put them in a position that they will make mistakes exchanging or making man-to-man? How is it more difficult? Is it more difficult to go, okay, in this case, to move to the side of the ball? No, let's move to the other side. Let's give him support, but I'm highly pressured. If I'm highly pressured, I have to move. And I move forward or I give him support. How do we make defense make some mistakes? In this case, they put themselves on lines and put mistakes. If we see the next one, it will even be more clearly because they're trying to defend, trying to do defense strictly individual. Let's see what are their defensive behaviors. Do they look only at their direct opponent, or they try to look at the ball and their direct opponent? What happens? Do they go to the where I want them to go? And in this case, we're seeing, okay, you already passed the ball. 2 against 2. How do they behave? And we have 2 against 2 here with more, how do you say it? Because Ricardo is on the other area. They're very close on horizontal line, right? On this kind of line.
Yeah.
Here
Flatter.
On a vertical line, these 2. What are the main behaviors? 2 against, okay, he didn't play. How do we play here? But then, what are the defensive behaviors? Will the defenders cross lines or not? Just because we cross lines, will he go after him and cross lines too? Yeah, he did. So, too bad. We're already 2 against 1.
George,
So
it's really interesting.
What's happening?
George.
Do we cross lines to one side or another? How do we read and try to organize this? Yes,
George, I was just saying, it's really, a really big point for me here to express to the coaches, that are watching is, the defensive action here, man for man individual means they're not exchanging, but they could think, and I think this is the key in futsal, those players could think they're doing really well in the pressure. But actually, again, Portugal are in control of this situation. They understand the individual, the collective actions that are needed when this team plays in this certain way. So this is a key for me for futsal development is, just because you're running hard doesn't mean you're necessarily defending well. And I know we're not talking about defending, but it's so important that the in possession units, individuals, pairs are comfortable under pressure and dealing with the pressure in the way they want control with. They're controlling it all the time.
That's because they're understanding. We can see our player running. Okay, the pass comes to this side and he starts running and stops. Brilliant. And he knows the ball will pass behind here because why? It's individual. Where do we create space? So can he stop again and give support? He knows there will be a line. He knows if he cuts, he will go after him. So he's creating space. And now he knows if he... And I was saying, teaching the game, you should never do that. You have to give space to the guy with the ball. You shouldn't run to his side. But if it's individual, like they were defending, if you cross sometimes line like this backwards, they cross the lines too defensively. So do we try to achieve it? And these are simple relations with 2 and with 3.
And when they decided to exchange, George, that was the mistake.
That was the mistake. And
in the defense, and you waited for that.
Can you promote the mistakes or not? No? How does it happen? So we can go to the next one. And now if we go to the drills and try to, how can we put it? 1 against 1 on defense zone, 1 against 1 on offensive zone. Don't let the ball go to the other guy. But if you leave him, now it's 1-on-1, or no, it's 2-on-2. Is this the kind of relations that happens on individual defense? Okay, the goalkeeper. First, don't let the goalkeeper put the ball on the other half. He put it here. Now, don't let him. Will he dribble you? Will you cut the line? How do you organize yourself defensively? You have to try to get over there. It's individual. If you can play with a pivot, now you have a vertical duality, or you have, how do you say it, Michael? A flatter line.
Horizontal, flat
horizontal,
line.
Or you're playing horizontal. Yeah. So you have to cut to try to help him. Now you're playing horizontal. So could we make a drill like this? Okay, it's 1-on-1. If you support him, the defense can go. If you don't support him, if you stay, after making the pass, if you stay, it's 1-on-1 here. So what is your decision? Could this be an environment close to what we've seen before on the match? No, I don't know. If we go to the next one, to the next slide, or the next drill, It's the same. This was what we were seeing before, wasn't it? He's highly pressured. So let's play one-on-one with one guy supporting. And how much space, how much time do you leave the guy that supports, the joker, like we say? How much time do you give him? He only has 4 seconds, only has 2 seconds to pass the ball. If he only has 2 seconds, the other guy has to move. After passing, he has to move quickly. He has to create advantage to his opponent. At this time, he has to create advantage to his opponent. So would this be a good drill or not? I don't know. Very simple. Only dualities, but with man-on-man, not with guys between lines, not with other kind of support, because he has to win the advantage, in this case, with his direct opponent. And the same, we can see another. So Jan was asking me what kind of movements happen more if you're individual. Okay, if you initiate the move to the side, you want to put a curtain, you want to put a blockage, what do you want to do? But is he really doing man-on-man? Or because you're going to the side of the ball, they're going to exchange? Okay, we're talking once again, 2 against 2. What happens? Will he go after you or will he attack the ball? If that happens, okay, now where do we create space? Where is the space? It's the obvious. We already have 2 against 2 on this side.
George, can I just interrupt you here a little bit? Sorry,
yes.
I'll keep interrupting you, but I think this is so important. You know, on the side here, you've got a 2 versus 2, for example. You know, sometimes we talk about a 2v2 and it doesn't matter whether it's flatter, whether it's in between, whether it's diagonal a little bit. But the detail for the duality, if they decide to do this duality, to flatten out the defensive line, to get the defensive on the same line, that detail that we're talking about, the principles in the dualities that you have to understand, the temporizing in order to get defenders close together, is the thing that's going to make the difference between breaking lines, breaking pressure, and winning the advantage.
Exactly, Michael. And now to look at the match, the 2 green guys are already on the same line. They're dead. Yeah. This cat won't eat the mouse. We have a good opportunity here. Now, will we do a parallel? Will we do change rhythm? Will I try to win advantage to my... Okay, but no. I want to think a little bit more. I want to amplify this a little bit more. No, because I made a curtain or a blockage on the other side, maybe the third guy will come with a huge advantage to this space. So the duality here is just to push the lines to have a third guy playing. Oh no, I want it simpler. I just want this duality. The game is this. The game is okay. The first movement, like Jan was telling me, I can put a propose, like I say, okay, let's do the first movement to side. No, let's build the first movement with the 2 center guys to push the lines. Okay, to understand the big picture. But then the little aspects here, that's just, like I say, it's the principle, but it's just the beginning. Now they have to decide. So,
and the players have to decide, don't they?
Have to decide. They have to open their eyes. And when they have knowledge of the game, when they understand main principles, like in this movement, should I do a blockage here? When the ball comes, of course, he will come with a huge advantage. Or when the ball comes here, no. Now orientate yourself to the other guy and just play 2 against 2. What do you want? What is easier? And to do, but since I've done that blockage in the first movement, or I did a screen just passing through him and the opponent, did the opponent waste time and got a little bit late because it's man-on-man? So this is the issue. If it was zone, I would have to think a little bit different. They're not going after me. They're jumping, they're exchanging. So maybe I have to stop on other sides. And I have to build dualities and threes another way. I think this is the main issue. And then, of course, like we began, most of the details, how do you orientate yourself? How do you go forward with which feet you do the pass? So man on man, 2 against 2 with a joker, with a support. Will you go always to screens and blockage, or will you create space and both of the guys will play very far one from another? In this case, it's different. So will he go that side, or will he come this side to have space? Or will he push them together to have a lot of space to the other guy that change rhythm? Or what kind of moves? But what will be successful in the game are these simple relations. What's happening? What are they doing to me? And how can I help my close colleague of my team? So 2 against 2, would it be okay? And okay,
sorry, just to interrupt
to
again on a language. You know, when you're talking about change rhythm, Scoobs, is that what we would call a 1-2, where it's kind of a quick boom boom rather than a slow? Is that, you know, like a wall pass around somebody? Is that what you're calling change of rhythm, or is that something slightly different?
It's like, it's easy. In this video, we will see it very clearly. That is, how do you change rhythm according to the movement of your defender? If he exchanges, you just have to stop most of the times in the correct space. We will see now.
I suppose it's Ian. Carry on, George. Sorry. Yeah.
How is
about
what is already this red player saying? Even with his arm, he's going after me. You have to give him support to the guy of the ball. So let's see. He's just looking. These 2 guys on this side. He's not even looking at the ball. The guy in the center, and this guy, he should come a little bit more inside. He doesn't have to come after his opponent so close to the line. What's happening? Everybody's seeing what's happening. So now, but they're with some distance, some safe distance to their direct opponent. So it's not important for Ricardinho to change rhythm because he has some safe distance here. What's going to happen? But with just this reception, this guy already had a huge advantage. And since here, on the right side, I think you're seeing the same side as me. On the right side, these guys were so concerned with their direct opponent, they left us a highway for Bruno.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about, aren't we, George? Sorry to just come back to Parks' point here. The passing and moving and the small actions, and then suddenly the acceleration in the game to exploit the defensive opportunity. So the tempo, Ian, we talk about waiting to slow the game down, speed it up for when those opportunities came. So I think Bruno here eventually went down the highway, accelerated through.
Here, Ricardo is already saying, you come, because he will come after me. And of course, this player, maybe he doesn't support him inside because he already saw that he has having an advantage. So just give him space. Simple aspects. In this case, okay, conducting the ball but most of the times when you move without ball, it's the same. If you already have an advantage, what do you do? So what's happening with defense and how are we trying to do it? I think in the next video, it's even more clear. So if we mix these kind of behaviors, so he didn't win after him. What happens? He didn't win after him. 3 against 3, let's take away. I move to the side of the ball, the same thing we did before. But he knows, because the rule of the drill is whoever passed cannot receive. So maybe I'm trying to improve relations 3 with 3, no? The third guy has to appear. But clever guys say, oh, if he cannot receive, we'll do 2-on-1 defensively constantly because that guy won't receive. So How does the third guy has to appear in which timing to have the line for the free guy if he didn't win after him? So it's individual. He goes. It's a jump mark in this case. So how do we solve it? Once again, the cat and the mouse. How do we try to solve it? If you do the pass on real quickly, maybe you will always have the third guy free. So what kind of behaviors are we doing? What's happening? Could I put just a drill 3 against 3? Who passes cannot receive. They will have to work. Let's see what happens defensively. Will they keep on man? If it's man on man, it will you just have to run. Create space in occupied space. You know the third guy will appear. Maybe the third guy will be a lot of pressure. Will they make 2-on-1 because they know he can't receive? And you say, oh, you tell them? Maybe I won't tell them. I will just let it go. So these are the main aspects.
And George, sorry so what we're talking about here is mixed behaviors. We're talking about a team that has man-for-man defense, but sometimes changes or jumps so that's a change. So actually, we've talked about a zonal shape, we've talked about a man-for-man shape, and now we're talking about even a higher level where some teams will be man-for-man, some teams will exchange players at certain actions, but the principles that the players need to understand is the same all the time, but they need to be able to see it perceptually.
I think what is really interesting in the game and is for you to mix up all these kind of principles, no? If for you to notice in this kind of space, in this area, maybe you can exchange. Here, no, go after him, man on man. Here, pressure and exchange and let the first line with 2 guys with no problem, with a big advantage on your back, but he won't have time to put the ball there. He won't have space. So how do you mix this kind of stuff? I can do man on man and suddenly, okay, now we pressure and exchange. Many teams, high-level teams, do that kind of behavior. So if we're talking about the cat and the mouse, if you don't understand simple aspects, you will misunderstood a lot of moments in the game, and these are very simple aspects. In this video, we can see, in this case, relation 2 against 2, easy. And now everybody's on the line, but the 2 against 2 on that side, they're not on the same line, the 2 white guys. Clever. So will we have advantage? Maybe we won't. He did parallel, but he didn't add advantage. Now we have 2 against 2 on this side. They decided to go for a blockage, but he didn't do it well. We didn't add advantage again. Okay, now we're having 2-on-2 on a vertical way. So if you pass, do you create space? No, but he didn't have advantage. If he doesn't have advantage, if you include the third player is trying to play, he missed the ball, but we were having the third player in this combination. Oh, this is difficult for who defends man on man. So how do you build it? On a horizontal line, on a vertical line? How do you put all these dualities and how do you understand the game? This is the main issue. If we can go to the next one, already saw this one is the same. Here are they playing 2-on-2, and this one here is one going to the other side, one going to the other side, one going to the other side, and suddenly he changed rhythm and orientation.
That's a brilliant clip, George. Yeah, that we call that a double movement. One for the defender, one for you. A double movement.
Because they were Matos playing this side and going. And brilliant. If we see now, this yellow guy doing man on man, he's not even looking at the ball. Okay, maybe in the third or the fourth movement, you pass to one side and you move to another. Most of the time, the defender has to decide. Do you control your man or you control the ball? If you control the ball, if you change rhythm, it will be very difficult for him to go after you. If you control him, you don't control the ball, so I can take you wherever I want. And that's what he did.
Brilliant.
And and now Bruno is exchanging because he see, okay, you're not deciding if you go after me or not. Let's change rhythm and let's have an advantage. So it's reading. We had 3 movements, Matos passing and going on the other side. First movement. Passing and going on the other side. Second movement. Passing and going on the other side. But let's change because they're hesitating. And you say, oh, that's the set piece of Portugal. No, it's not. That's understanding what relations you have to have with your teammate and what is the defense doing. And most of the times it's simple relations, 2-on-2 or 3-on-3. So what is more decisive?
George, sorry, just to say that something that's quite interesting when I see players in this country play is when they play, they run away from the ball, they run forwards, but they just keep running. What was really interesting there, the player was able to make decisions and see those because body shape was to see the ball, to see the space. And so it's not just a case of pass and I've got to run forwards and just run away. We've talked a lot about body orientation and body shape. That was really important.
And most of the times you won't create advantage if you don't understand this. If you're not well orientated, if you're not looking forward, if you're not looking at your colleague that passed you the ball and moved, you have to have constantly, you have to, I don't know how you say it in English, but we say it and a lot, you have to be a huge threat to your opponent always.
Yeah.
You have to be a huge threat when you receive the ball.
Yeah.
You have to be a huge threat when you move. But then you have to read. Where's the space? Is he going after you? Is he looking at the ball?
Yeah. I was going to say to George, you're so right. We talk about, or we're developing our way of playing about you must attack your opponent. You must attack their back. There might not be space there, but you still must be a threat in behind. Yeah. But in that clip that Ian was talking about, what was so good was that he attacked the space because he understood the space was there through the duality, through the individual action, through not much pressure on the ball. So he knew the forward pass could be played. So he was so good at the double movement.
Exactly. Yeah. And maybe if there's too much pressure, I don't move. I just support. I will move on the second time, not on the first. So to understand on this, Jan used a very interesting word, because if I translate it, the word to Portuguese, that's what sometimes we say with our young players, because they just pass and run away. It seems they pass and run away, not to play no more. And that's it. Yeah. Don't run away, move. One thing is passing and moving. One thing is passing and running away. You're running away from the ball. You have to understand. And this is, so what is more decisive? And we have here 2 or 3 videos. Okay, let's see the strategy to break the pressure, the first moves. But let's see what's more important inside those moves. Okay, we tried to move all the 4 guys, and what happened? We have 2 against 2 on one side, and we have 2 against 2 on the other side. 2 against 2 on this side.
Brilliant.
2 against, is he exchanging or going after? No, he's exchanging. So the problem was the other red guy, he was a little bit lazy this day. Because if he would continue by the inside, it's 2 against 1. So, okay, the strategy is to exchange the 2 guys, go forward, the 2 center guys and the 2 guys on the line try to receive the ball. Perfect.
What a first touch, by the way.
You have to understand these 2-on-2. If the other guys goes by the inside, it's 2 against 1. He did George, 2 against 1. Here is 2 against 1 in the beginning.
Yeah, your strategy here, George, that you've got players that are opening passing lines for these balls.
Yeah.
Very subtly, very, very subtly, because they understand the strategy, they understand the paired movements, and they're being really subtle here, just slowing down the defensive press.
Yes, as you can see, we don't have to run very far. Let's see what's happening. Oh, he exchanged. The guy in the middle went to the guy on the line. What now the detail, Michael, like you were saying, he has to do a correct reception. He's already orientated forward. He's not orientated backwards because he wouldn't do that first touch. And since he's orientated forward, he already went. If the guy in the middle would continue, now we have 2 against 1 on this one. So very simple. 1 pass from the goalkeeper, 1 reception. Do you create an advantage or not? This is simple aspects, simple details. And just one other detail, like it's the big problem with our kids. Okay, the pass from the goalkeeper. If this guy is a left foot, we're dead. Because he would cross his feet. He would go with the left foot to receive. So he would be orientated to his goal. The Spanish guy would press him like crazy because they are very clever and they see, no, this guy crossed his feet. He's not orientated. He won't go forward. I can press him and kill him with no problem. The cat would eat the mouse for sure. In this case, they gave us 50 centimeters of advantage. So well-orientated, first touch going forward. The other guy, he was lazy. He should go forward too to give him support in the middle. We're playing 2-on-2 on this side. We could do the same thing on the other side. Okay, the strategy, let's see. We knew they're so clever. Try to see if they change or don't change. If it would be with other kind of teams, maybe they would do man-on-man. It would be totally different. And here we can see the same in this video. Let's see if we can see the duality too. Okay, what is the strategy? The strategy is simple. One guy moves first, and then we try to put 2 guys 2-on-2 here. Perfect. Individual. He got an advantage. Then he did, and the third guy coming. Then we didn't do nothing, just mistakes. But as we can see again, okay, first move doesn't count. Individual, the guy goes after you. If the guy goes after you, the ball comes here, 2-on-2. How is the defender? Now the details. What is the defender of the guy with ball doing, trying to cut the pass line? He's, I don't know how to explain it in English. He's
killed himself.
A huge space, but he's not very balanced.
Yeah.
Look, how is he orientated? The defender, he's dead.
George, on that clip,
my player at this time has to know he put his right foot very far away from his left foot. He will take a lot of time to react. He's backwards to the ball. Now I have to change rhythm. I just have to go totally velocity. They are on the same line, the both. I have a big advantage. This little detail is the most important in a simple aspect.
George, sorry to interrupt. I think just to interrupt here. This is really, really key to the, like you say, how they're in the defensive now are on the same line because the attacker went in. He could have done more of a diagonal wall pass, but he's come back to flatten out the defensive lines. The player that's played the ball into the middle player has maybe slowed it down to draw in the defender and then use his pressure against him to create the space in behind the defender's line. And these little individual actions, the collective actions, it looks really free, and they've practiced it and they understand the game so well, and they understand the individual techniques, the group techniques and tactics. It looks so easy and looks so simple, but it's brilliant. It's brilliant.
Because this first movement is telling you everything. Look, it's individual. It's man-on-man.
Yeah.
We didn't even know this was a training with another team. We didn't even know. Okay, it's individual. Now we have 2-on-2. Will they put themselves in the same line? Yes. And this guy stays backwards. He's dead. He won't never catch him. And
good pass that.
Yeah, good pass. But because he's left, because if he would be a right guy, he had the advantage. He would just have to go to the conduct the ball to the goal, period. Yeah, but he's left, so he's not. So if we go to the next video.
And George, you said you played in goal. What's the goalkeeper's role in all this?
Good question. I still remember when I was there in England in one of the drills. I remember that one was one of the questions. For me, the goalkeeper has to be the player that understands everything. The first pass of the goalkeeper can give you a huge advantage. He has to understand if they're exchanging, if they're man on man, where will be the space. The first ball that the goalkeeper puts into play is decisive for me to go out of pressure. Decisive. And sometimes the goalkeepers think they're only there to defend. And they're very, very important in going out of pressure in the first decision. And here, once again, we have one video, and I can do this. This is very simple. Everybody does that. 3-1, trying to create space for the goalkeeper to put the ball on the pivot. Okay, the space is created. He can put it there directly. Okay, no risks here. Put it in front. Okay, but it was individual. The white guy went after the red guy. If the white guy stops and cuts the line, where should the pivot go? The pivot shouldn't come to get the ball. He should go to the offensive line. He should go to the back of his defender. Because why? You will have 2 against 1. The goalkeeper is the main guy to understand that. Yeah. Where will he put the ball now? If this white guy that's running, if he stays here on the middle line and cuts the line of the goalkeeper to the pivot, what will be the decision of the goalkeeper? What will be the decision of the pivot? Where will the pivot move? He won't come to receive the ball. He will go to the back of his defender because the other red guy will be alone too. So we will have, once again, 2 against 1 in some space. Now, details.
I think it's key, George, isn't it?
That's the key. Will the goalkeeper be good enough to put the ball, good to play, to receive? George, this ball wasn't good. This ball was, and we lost it.
George, I was just going to say, it's like the game of futsal is so demanding on the goalkeeper's decision making, how they have to understand the team tactics, and ultimately can create goals with their feet or their hands. They need to have the technique to be able to employ that on the court. But it puts the goalkeeper into so much tactical situations that they are part of the game that can create so much opportunity.
For me, it's that point of view that is decisive, and it's very, very important. And because the goalkeeper has to be a leader, has to have a huge leadership on the team. And if he's always doing mistakes with the first pass, with putting the ball into play, the team won't trust him.
And also,
for nothing. Won't trust him even to defend. And he has to understand and has totally knowledge of the game and what we do.
The things that I think people will probably miss from this and a little bit of detail is there will be multiple outcomes depending on the pressure on the ball, whether the team is man for man, whether the team is zonal, whether they're mixed, whether they jump. You will have multiple outcomes as a team, and the keeper then has to select the best outcome from the situation. So again, the players are always got to be thinking about the game state, the situations and the solutions.
Exactly. They have to know the game. And we have here another good example. Okay, a tragedy. But simple. I didn't tell the player to do this. He tried to receive the ball in the middle, and this is a video from a training session. Michael was there watching. And okay, the 2 players moving on the left side, suddenly he changes rhythm. Why? Because he saw that all the defensive line is higher than the middle line of the pitch. So he said, where is the space? I don't have to continue moving to the sideline. Let me change because I have space in the middle. The problem was that the goalkeeper didn't saw it, or saw it, but didn't took the risk to put the ball. And of course, he's not in a very, very good advantage. But when I saw the clips from the training session, I said, okay, there's another solution for the game with a simple 2-on-2 on this side. Okay, now you have to run more and try to build everything. Then it was a disaster on this pass. But this exchange on the side, suddenly he runs quickly to the middle, and the other goalkeeper tried to do coverage. Okay, but where is the space? So many space in the middle. Can't the goalkeeper put the ball there with a hand? Maybe he can. So this is decisive.
Probably two attacking options, George, there, isn't there? There's probably two attacking options before the more the harder option. So the keeper's...
The problem was the goalkeeper was looking at the big strategy.
Yeah.
And he shouldn't look at the big... Okay, I know that this guy who he passed the ball is going to be alone. And of course, as you can see, there's one of our players on the left side already going with a lot of advantage. And it's a left foot. He could put it right away. That was our strategy. But when I go to the beginning, I said, and of course it's Bruno, and Bruno already discovered a solution here. A lot of space. Maybe it could go. Of course. And then we have the advantage because it's hard to exchange or to do man-on-man. So what is more important? The big set pieces that we build to go out of pressure like this, or then knowing simple aspects. So that's the main issue of all of this. So, and to finish like I started, of course, does the message passing? How can we help him? I'm always saying, how can we help him? With strategies that set pieces and moves already set up, like I say, only strategia, or do we help them with tactics? And for me, tactics is for them to open the eyes, read and see what they do. And of course, it's important, the game knowledge we all have, all the staff, everybody that works with them, not only the coach, it's decisive. We're all a team. There are a lot of people. Do they believe in what we are doing? Is there emotional commitment? Oh, maybe you're right. Oh, the bald guy, he's opening my eyes to this or that. Maybe when these kind of feelings, when these kind of emotions happen, maybe the message will pass. And of course, how do we feel? Not only when the things happen. How is that environment? Even when we have different roles, or we have the same roles in the team, does this happen or not, or just we think it's just of what we say? So, like I say, we have to keep thinking the game, trying to improve it, open our eyes, look at all these videos and risks, but look at the details, look at small
George,
aspects that the players do, because sometimes they find nice solutions, but we're here to help them and to involve them in this knowledge of the game and these principles, fundamentals, actions, knowing all these tools for them to, then it's much more easier for us to build this strategy or that, and for everything to work. That's my opinion.
George, brilliant. It's been absolutely brilliant. I've just got really sort of, a bit of a question about the whole sort of picture, because, as coaches, we can be very fixated on the technical action of a player. And we talk about perception, action, coupling, or perception, decision, action. And, for me, we have to coach in all of these areas, and we have to not divorce one area from the other. But, in futsal today, we've talked about orientation, being able to play forward to see, or see forward to play forward, about a perception thing. We've then talked about understanding dualities, the decision-making aspect of the game, the knowledge of the game. And then you've obviously got some world-class technical players that can really execute those things. what's your opinion on that? Perception, decision, action, perception, action coupling, and futsal.
Yes, it's like you said, everything together is the most important, of course, because everything is very important. But I can give you one or two examples, and we're discussing that a lot here in Portugal. Yesterday, I was hearing here a football coach. He was from national team already, a fantastic coach, and he was giving me some data about, because we're always complaining that only Ronaldo scores, no? We don't have very good strikers here in Portugal. And he was giving me some data when he was in national team. Ronaldo shoots the goal between 40 and 50 times when the training session ends by himself. Other players that played in England and that are playing in England football, they do 30 or 40 crosses when the training session ends. And I'm saying, but that's only the technical aspect. We're always saying, no, they have to have perception, they have to have opposition, they have to read, they have to understand the dualities. But the problem is, or one thing that is very obvious, is the main players do all this kind of work during all their career. Maybe that's why he scores so much. Maybe that's why Nani crosses so well. Maybe that's why Bernardo Silva does that things with the left feet and the right feet. Maybe that's why Ricardinho has the level that he has, because he always wants more, even with simple aspects, just technical aspects of the game. And I can give you a futsal example. Before Euro, under 18, it was Euro on 2018. We've decided in our planning, our training sessions, that all training sessions would end just shooting at the goal. Just giving more volume of work, technical work on that aspect. Okay, it's not always the same. You have a great variability, because high balls, interior balls, shoot on first, shoot after reception. But we would always give 10, 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, individual work, technical work at the end of the session with all the players. And what, like I always say, maybe the main feedback we always have, the most important, isn't of the directors, is of the players. Yeah. And when the players say, this is very important for me, this is very important for me to maintain, to improve, to maintain my confidence. So at this time, I'm always thinking, and yesterday it was very interesting for me to hear that, okay, we don't have strikers. Yeah, we don't have strikers, but if we look at our training sessions, we want perception, decision, dualities, understand the game, understand the game, understand the game. And they spend, the example he was giving was an under 17 boy that's almost already getting to professional in football, and he, in a week of training, he shoots as many as Ronaldo shoots one time after a training session. So he would say, if he shoots 160 times every week, plus the 30 or 40 times he shoots on the training, the main training with all the other colleagues, I'm training guys from 14 years old to 19 years old, and I'm not giving this kind of volume and this kind of improvement. So we're discussing a little bit this at this time. And since futsal is so detailed and it's so important to take advantage of the 50 centimeters, you have to be really precise with a lot of the actions you do. So that kind of improvement, I think it has to be every day, of course, but perception and understanding the game is very, very important. The problem is when we only do one side or another, I think that for many years, I only was going by understanding the game. Yeah, but we have to improve some simple aspects. I don't know, some doubts about how to divide our training sessions, our content. Should we give more time to improve simple aspects, even individual aspects, only technical aspects? I don't know.
I mean, we're talking. Yeah, this is what I'm saying, isn't it? This is, as coaches, we need to decide. And you're talking about the volume, and it's really important how much kids touch the ball, kick the ball, shoot the ball. The volume is really important. In futsal, they get lots of volume. They also get lots of different variations of actions and technical actions and decisions, and they get lots of variety of different pictures. So the game itself gives them variety. But the volume is also really important, which they get as well. So I think this is the thing, isn't it? As coaches, we need to decide what level and priority, as they move through the ages, what we think they should have. And sometimes I think, George, you're talking about where senior players go, well, I think this is also my priority, and taking ownership of their development or their performance. It's brilliant.
Because I noticed that in every session you showed today, there was always a goal, there was always a direction, and it was either matched up or one extra. But you did always have goals and direction and small numbers in your practices.
Always.
But George, you're sorry.
Yes, Michael.
So I was going to say, you're quite a small nation in comparison to some of the bigger nations, and you've been very successful in futsal. You've been very successful in football at the minute, as being European champions on both levels. So I'm sure you're getting something quite right, but you're also looking for the next thing, like you spoke about at the start. You're looking for how you can improve the futsal, how you can improve the football, how you can improve coach education all the time to keep leading, in those areas.
Yeah, that is decisive for us. Our coach education system for the last years, that's decisive. And at this moment, we're trying to develop some programs. We're trying to develop some projects to improve the coach education. The professors' education are at the lowest levels, under 10 in the schools. So we have here some different programs. We have programs to improve teachers who teach futsal in the schools, because usually they don't have the specific knowledge of the game, these kind of details. So it's important we have a program to help all the teachers. We go all around the country.
So you're saying, George, in schools that kids will get this level of detail around the game? Do they not play football in schools?
No, in schools only futsal. Not the schools don't have facilities to play football. They have indoor spaces, outdoor spaces, but at futsal, they don't have facilities to play football, sorry. So everybody plays futsal. And we're here, we have some very interesting experience in the last seasons, 4, 5, 6 seasons, because some regions of our country are allowing girls and boys to play both. No? If you don't have a lot of clubs in a certain region, why shouldn't they have both experience? They only train 2 times futsal, they only train 2 times football. Why shouldn't they one weekend play futsal, the other weekend play football? Until, we're talking about lowest stages, under 10, under 12, under 13, under 14. After that, of course, they decide, but what kind of experience in variety they have, this is very important. And allow me not to, like I say, for me, it's already a huge problem to organize 5 guys, to organize 11, I can imagine. But I'm always saying, when I see, and I love to see football, but I see so many spaces that the guys don't take the risk. No? Some top teams do it, better or not. And futsal provides that detail, that short space and short time. And how do we help in the lowest levels of kids, the first stages of development, the first experience, are they good experience? So if he likes to have experience in futsal, but of course football is football and football is his great dream, let them have this experience in both. We don't see no problem in that. We don't see no problem. And we think that it helps to improve coordinate aspects and small perception decision of simple aspects of the game, because they have to solve problems with short space and short time. And even if he's a left guy, many times he has to use his right foot. He doesn't have, he won't solve the problem. So how do we try to, sometimes we have the problem, okay, of no, it's football, no, it's futsal, no. Like I say, it's all the same. And we're having some interesting experience with girls, especially, that having both experience and their level is increasing a lot. So
really interesting, George. Guys, we have run out of time, but thank you so much for that. That was excellent. The openness to your views and your thinking, it was brilliant to have access to that. I think with all this content we're accessing through webinars at the moment, the key for us as coaches is how we try and make sense of it for ourselves in our setting. So I would really encourage those listening to go away and try and digest that hour and however long it was, 45 minutes of detail and content. Try and make sense of it for yourselves. But all that's left to say, I think, is thank you so much to you both, George, for your time tonight. Scoob, same to you. Thank you so much. And I did say right at the beginning, do look out for further content on the FA Learning YouTube channel around futsal. But I think that's it from me. Thanks so much.
Can I just say thank you to George, because it's been amazing to have you as a guest and talk in detail around futsal, and then obviously at the end there talk about how all players play futsal as part of their development in Portugal and how it affects your systems. But just as so openness to share is amazing, and thank you in these difficult times. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the invitation. It was a big pleasure. Like I say, even by this technology, it's not the same, but to discuss the game, to discuss details, to discuss videos, and we could stay here for 8 hours.
Don't worry, the passion still shines through. Don't worry.
So it was a great pleasure. Very nice to discuss with Michael. Always so assertive on all observations. You understand everything. You see all the details. So it's been really nice for me too. We keep in touch, stay safe, and success. We all belong to the same family of football and futsal. We're all of the same family. So we'll keep meeting in the future for sure, in some indoor facilities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, George. Thank you
for sharing. Thank you.
Obrigado.
Obrigado.
Obrigado.